Good evening and a very warm welcome to a virtual Oulton Park as we're into the second half of the championship now as we hit round 4 of the 750 Motor Club Winter Sim Championship powered by Grid Finder. We are back in the global Mazda MX-5 Cup car representing the 5 Club Racing MX-5 Cup. The same car that we used for the first meeting of the season at Brands Hatch Indy, but this time we are in the endurance race, 45 minutes with a mandatory pit stop for a refuel and a tyre change as well. And as you can see, conditions will be very different as well as we have some wet weather, although I'm told it is programmed to dry up later on in the race. So we're going to have a transitional phase for that, which should make things even more interesting. A difference for this round as well, there will be additional points for qualifying. So pole position will be awarded 5 points, second place 2 points, and third place 1 point, in addition to the standard points we've had for the remaining races, which is 30 for the win, 24 for second, 20 for third, so on and so forth, down to 20th place. Qualifying just getting underway, so remember, points up for grabs. And we're back in the Global Mazda MX-5 Cup, representing the 5 Club Racing MX-5 Cup. Oak Richardson, the champion in the real world, in the Mark 1 cars that the Real World Championship uses. And Oulton Park has not been present on the calendar for 5 Club, either last year or this year, but will be interesting to see how these cars go around this circuit. 5 Club representing some of the biggest MX-5 grids in the UK. As we ride on board with James King making his way down to hit the Hislop chicane, and you could barely see it. In fact, such was the reflections, and of course there's different layouts down there as well. You can't straight line that chicane. Various puddles that the drivers will have to avoid, particularly in the high-speed sections of the racetrack. Making his way up Clay Hill is James King, 7th in the championship, and a lovely sideways moment braking for Druids and drifting that MX-5 around the double apex right-hander underneath the Warwick Bridge and towards the final corner at Lodge, keeping well off the racing line, trying to find the grip. Of course, that's part of the big appeal of iRacing, is that the real world transitions in the surface, so the grip will be off the racing line, unlike in other, I say racing games, but of course racing, not a game. Often get in trouble for calling it that. So a reminder that this 4th meeting of the season is another series that represents a real world 750 Motor Club Championship. So far we've had the Formula V's. 2 weeks ago it was the Clio Sport Championship. Next week it will be the BMW M2 CS Racing car to represent the BMW Car Club Racing Championship, and then we'll have our finale in 2 weeks' time with the Radical Club Challenge, the SR8, representing there at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. This is Jake Hewlett in the number 92 car, and who's been on pole position for the last 2 events in the Formula V's at Silverstone National and in the Clios at Snetterton 2 weeks ago. You see he was using very different lines there to what James King was using, going into the Hislop chicane and round Knickerbrook. Jake Hewlett, who wasn't with us for the first meeting of the season, but enjoyed a few great battles with Trafford King, our championship leader, last time out at Snetterton. They finished 1-2 in all 3 of those races and were absolutely knocking 7 bells out of each other. One wonders if that trend will continue this weekend. Speak of the devil, there is Trafford King, his familiar light blue DH Racing colours. The Type R Trophy racer leads the championship by 64 points going into tonight's racing to At second place, Noah Osbaldeston, who picked up 2 podium finishes last time out at Snetterton. Third place in races 2 and 3. And normally we would have 3 15-minute races, 1 top 10 reverse grid, but it is the single 45-minute race for this week. So James Ellis currently fastest on a 2:03.5. That is the youngster, the former Ginetta racer, who I'm sure would have been used to racing around Oulton Park in similar conditions. Looking to get back on track in Ginetta machinery this year. But in the meantime has been very active on iRacing with the Cool Camel racing team. He is fastest by 0.3 of a second at the moment to Jake Hewlett and Jackson Carden. So it's James, Jake and Jackson up at the front of the field at the moment. Jackson Carden, multiple podium finisher this year. Or this season, I should say. Of course, we started at the end of 2025. Jackson Carden, another youngster, 16-year-old from Warrington. A fellow Type R Trophy racer, having made his debut midway through 2025. And was on pole position the last time we raced at Oulton Park in this championship. That was in the Calm All Porsche Trophy. So Carden about to go across the line, his familiar red colours. And it's Trafford King, though, who's just gone fastest by 0.75 of a second to James Ellis at 2:01.7. Now, the lap times, I'm sure, are going to continue to tumble as drivers find more confidence in these fairly treacherous conditions. That beautiful sliding around Cascades from the championship leader. Yet to start on pole position so far this year is Trafford. Mentioned it was Jake Hewlett for the last 2 meetings. It was Noah Osbaldeston the last time we were in the MX-5s. At Brands Hatch for the opening meeting of the season. So Trafford King just making his way through the Britain's chicane. Important to get a good exit out of there. So a brief look at Luca Monroe there, who's racing with a broken right foot tonight. Not quite sure how he came to break his right foot. He rather omitted those details, but I'm sure loaded up on the aspirin for tonight's racing. And the good news is in these conditions won't actually be full throttle for a fair bit of it, I'd have thought. And hopefully will be left foot braking. James King, the number 23, we're on board with down Warwick Bridge and into Lodge Corner. The former Armed Forces Race Challenge racer and RAF Motorsport competitor. So Trafford King has gone even faster, knocked a 10th off of that time. And right here with Ross Lorem, getting it very sideways around Cascades. The Mazda 7's racer. In a car that he is quite familiar with in iRacing. Got into iRacing last year and has kept it involved in the MX-5s and, of course, Mazda 7s using the MX-5 engine, the supercharged version. So, largely familiar machinery for him. I don't like they are committed over the curbs, even in these conditions, which is brave. Simon Gallen here, I believe that is in the number 13 car, the former Historics racer. And look at that, that's qualifying over and done with already. So those 10 minutes went by very quick indeed, and it is by 0.8 of a second. And for the first time this season, Trafford King, who will start on pole position for this 45-minute endurance race. So remember, no sprint action. It is 45 minutes, single race tonight, one mandatory pit stop for a refuel and a tyre change as well. Wet conditions here at Oulton Park, and it will be the championship leader, Trafford King, who starts on pole position in the light blue and white machine, the number 42 on the right-hand side as we're currently looking at it. James Ellis will be alongside him on the front row of the grid in the number 20 car. That's the blue and orange machine. The red and black car of Jackson Carden, number 96, on the second row of the grid. And then Jake Hewlett, the black and blue machine, number 92, in fourth position. Alex Stockton in fifth. Stanley Rolfe in the 36 car, starting on the third row of the grid. And we're already underway for 45 minutes of racing in round 4 of the 750 Motor Club Winter Sim Championship, powered by Grid Finder, and a lovely start for Trafford King. He gets the whole shot into Old Hall Corner. Everybody keeping it neat and tidy so far as we make our way through. Jackson Carden is challenging for second place, the inside line into Denton's. That becomes the outside line for Cascades, and that could open up the door for Jake Hewlett, who gets an excellent run on the exit of the corner. And we make our way down Lakeside for the first time, and it is Jake Hewlett who is now challenging for third place on Jackson Carden. Absolutely level pegging as they make their way into Island Bend for the first time. He draws half a car ahead by the time they get to the apex, and that is a lovely, brave move on the opening lap. But Jackson Carden stuffing it back up the inside as we make our way around the banked Shell Oil hairpin for the first time of asking. But Hewlett carrying that momentum around the outside and just hanging on to third place there. So that's where the action's been so far on this opening lap. Trafford King leading James Ellis and Jake Hewlett up into third place ahead of Jackson Carden. Then it's Alex Stockton in fifth, Noah Osbaldeston sixth, Stanley Rolfe in seventh, Ross Loram, James King and Ryan Cunningham. But Luca Munro seemingly dropping places there. Can see him tumbling down the timing order. Bit of side-by-side and a bit of argy-bargy going into his laps for the first time of asking. That's Stockton and Osbaldeston, and it is Osbaldeston who gets forced off the road there and ends up losing a place to Stanley Rolfe, the number 36 car. So Osbaldeston in an early bit of strife there over at the Hislop chicane. The pole sitter from Brands Hatch and multiple podium finisher. Second place in the championship, don't forget as well. Meanwhile, his championship rival is 1.2 seconds clear at the head of the field. Not sure how much we can call it a championship rival, actually. 64 points the lead for Trafford King going into this fourth meeting of the season. Jake Hewlett looked like he was already lining up a pass on James Ellis for second place. And remember, he and Trafford King were absolutely knocking 7 bells out of each other in Snetterton in all 3 of the races in the Clios that we had. A bit of a sideways moment there through Old Hall Corner for Jake Hewlett, and that has really cost him an awful lot of ground to James Ellis and has allowed Jackson Carden to draw alongside. It's almost a carbon copy of what we saw on the first lap, with Hewlett taking that tighter line, but a lovely undercut there from Jackson Carden. Hasn't quite got the same momentum that Hewlett had on the opening lap of the race, but nonetheless he's got an overlap going into Island Bend. Has to bail out of it, but that is the second time they've been very close. Going through that very fast left-hander on the way into the Banks hairpin so far in this race. And look at that, they've lost 1.7 seconds to James Ellis. Just in a few corners of squabbling with Alex Stockton, not too far behind as well. That looked like Noah Osbaldeston and Stanley Rolfe getting together at the Britain's chicane. And yes, there they are. They've tangled and both been off the road. So that is Osbaldiston's second drama of the race. Remember, he had contact with, I think it was Alex Stockton, if memory serves. I know it was only a lap ago, but quite a bit to keep on top of. That was down at Hislops in the first lap of the race. Jackson Carden not giving up on third position in the early stages of this race. Lovely little drift on the exit of Druids for Jake Hewlett. He lit up the rear tyres, as I'm sure many people are. Must be a sense of quite old school driving where you're floating the car across the surface and sliding their way through. Like when you see historic cars on cross-ply tyres. Well, the lead gap staying very steady at the moment, hovering around 1 second, but it's getting very close as we can see the rear view of Jake Hewlett. A former Type R trophy racer himself. Oh no, big moment though for Jackson Carden. He goes sideways into Cascades, loses a place to Alex Stockton, just about finds his way back onto the road and will lose further places. But that was Jackson Carden making a mistake into Cascades as he was trying to mount the pressure on Jake Hewlett. Is he going to lose further places here to Andrew Cooper? Yes, he is. So he's now in a sandwich between Cooper and Ross Lorem in 8th position. A very costly mistake there. That's lost him 4 places. Meanwhile, race leader, Traffic King, unperturbed at the front of the field. 1.1 seconds ahead of James Ellis, as he has been for the majority of the race. James Ellis keeping our championship leader very honest here. And they are now 2.6 or so ahead of Jake Hewlett, who's been soaking up some of that pressure. Now I wonder, with Carden no longer on his back, whether we'll see Hewlett try and close the gap again. So that's Carden's been able to regain one of those places, and Ross Lorem's actually gone around Andrew Cooper as well. See the recovering Noah Osbaldiston in the back of shot there as well. Andrew Cooper, one of the directors of the 750 Motor Club, a long-standing racer, having competed in Formula V, Type R Trophy, Road Sports. We'll be back in Road Sports and doing Club Enduro this year as well in the Ginetta G40 that he raced in Road Sports last year. So James King on the back of Ryan Cunningham for 5th place. That's the former Armed Forces Race Challenge driver we were talking about there in the white, red and blue machine, getting very sideways at the apex of Cascades. And Ryan Cunningham, the 37-year-old, who has primarily competed in Honda machinery. They're in 5th position. I think that's the highest we've seen Cunningham run all season. So we have a great onboard view. You can see the perspective of James King. James King, a race winner. The last time we had the MX-5s, won race 2 at Brands Hatch in the MX-5 car. That was a feisty event, and in fact also race winner in the Formula Vs as well at Silverstone National. Was second in the championship, I think, at one point after the first meeting of the season, I want to say. A difficult round at Snetterton though, in the Clios, but back in more familiar machinery. And piling the pressure on Ryan Cunningham. See a little feint to the inside going into Lodge Corner. Rise up over Deer Leap. Past the pit building on driver's right. Spent many an afternoon in that pit lane, up in that commentary box as well, and in that paddock. Stark memories of roaming there for Club Enduro coverage for the 750 Motor Club live streams. And in fact, my first PR job as well at British GT at this track. Now Osbaldeston on the recovery and trying to regain some ground here on Andrew Cooper on the inside going into Island Bend. Lovely job there by the Motorsport 1000 racer. Now entering his second year of car racing is Osbaldeston. I'm not quite sure what his season plans are just yet, though has said that he won't be in Sports 1000 for this year. The youngster, 17-year-old from Bury St Edmunds. After a tumultuous start to this race on the recovery and up into 9th position now. See, Stanley Rolfe has also got past Andrew Cooper on this lap as well. Stanley Rolfe, another youngster. And just to remind everybody who's watching, the 6 rounds that make up the Winter Sim Championship, all based on real-world 750 Motor Club formula. The Global Mazda MX-5 Cup representing the 5 Club Racing MX-5 Cup for Mark 1 MX-5 machinery. Some of the biggest grids in UK racing. We had the Formula V at Silverstone National, the Clios last time at Snetterton as well. We go to Navarra next week for the BMW Car Club Racing Championship, and then to the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit for the Radical Club Challenge. That'll be represented by the SR8. Radical Club Challenge in the real world is the only standalone SR1 class, and is a great introduction to radical racing and sort of early prototype racing, which had some good growth in 2025. And the last meeting of the season last year is believed to have been the largest grid of sports car or sports racing cars in the UK of last season, and certainly the largest radical only grid for 10 years or so. Now remember, if you are watching this and getting inspired, wanting to try real world racing, and you can do it for an awful lot less than you think. If you go to 750mc.co.uk, it's the 750 Motor Club website, and then the first button you'll see is Start Racing. So from on there you can get all the information you need to get your Go Racing pack from Motorsport UK for £115. You can get your ARDS test done from as little as £250. And there's lots of great information on there about where to take your ARDS test, where you can get that done, where to get the right kit. And then when you do get your license, there are more than 20 formula to choose from in the 750 Motor Club, which is the home of affordable racing. And speaking of affordable racing, there's quite a good bit going on here. Ryan Cunningham very sideways out of Cascades. That's opened up the door a little bit. Here comes Jackson Carden. James King going way off the road at Island Bend. He's going to find very grip out there. Oh, they're all seemingly struggling for grip suddenly, because we've had several cars off the road. Carden goes for another spin. Oh, and takes, is that Noel Osbaldeston with him as well? So suddenly, it's all kicked off as there were cars with huge dents in them, cars going slow, cars going off the road. An awful mess down at the Shell Oil hairpin there. So Jackson Carden continues on his way in 10th position. Looks like Alex Stockton was involved in that as well, because he was in 4th position. It's now Ross Loram up there ahead of Stanley Rolfe, then James King, then Andrew Cooper, then Osbaldeston and Luca Monroe. The broken-footed Luca Monroe now 9th, Jackson Carden 10th. So quite a bit of shake-up in the order there as there were cars off the road. And who is this in pit lane then? So that is Ryan Cunningham. Yes, so he was one of the cars that got pitched round at the hairpin. So it is a mandatory stop to take. So depending on how much time he needs on repairs. Well, you do actually get one fast repair, of course you do. So Ryan Cunningham should be on his way pretty sharpishly. James King making the move on Stanley Rolfe for 5th position. The outside of Denton's turns into the inside line for Cascades. Runs it out quite wide. Both of them struggling for grip, taking a little bit of grass on the exit of the corner as well as James King. And that allows the Stanley Rolfe car to Duncan his way on the inside into Island Bend, and they swap positions once again. So Stanley Rolfe hangs on to 5th position. The 17-year-old from Buckinghamshire showing racecraft beyond his years. So out of Knickerbrook and back up Clay Hill they go. Still James King trying to get the move done. See a lovely bit of sideways action there from Stanley Rolfe. And let's see what the lines are like going into Lodge Corner. Two very different lines. Rolfe was much tighter to the inside, maybe looking for grip, maybe just defending. These guys about 2.5 seconds behind Ross Loram. We'll see him just going through the picture. Starting to fall away from the Mazda 7's racer as they continue to squabble. And could well be losing time to Noah Osbaldeston as well, who's only about 3 seconds back from them as well. Well, that was Luca Monroe in pit lane, I think. So people starting to come into pit lane as these two go side by side again, with James King around the outside of Stanley Rolfe into Island Bend. Very, very courageous move indeed, especially considering he was off the road there just a few laps ago. Oh, spinning car right in front of them, and that was Ross Loram. So it's actually 2 up for James King. He's now up into 4th position with that audacious move on Stanley Rolfe and the demise there of Ross Loram, who's spun his car at the Shell Oil hairpin. Not the first to do so in this race. A good avoiding by the 2 cars behind. So that also puts Osbaldeston up into 6th position. He's also closed these two down by a second since the start of the lap. Yes, they have been squabbling, but that is some great speed shown there by Osbaldeston, 2nd in the championship. yet to take a victory, though, so far is Osbaldeston. In the 9 races that we've had so far, somehow only 3 different race winners. It's 5 to Trafford King and 2 apiece for Jake Hewlett and James King. We're back with the race leader, who's now 7.1 clear of James Ellis. I wonder if Ellis was slightly caught up in the melee of the hairpin, because he was matching the pace of Trafford King. Now we are approaching that time as well of the year, of course, where registrations will soon be open for the 2026 season. That opens up in exactly 7 days' time. And then individual race entry will open up the following week on the 10th of February as well. And if you haven't already booked a slot for the pre-season track day, that will be on the 8th of March at Donington Park. And there will be 750 Motor Club staff on site to answer any questions that you may have about a car you're entering, or if you're just curious about the championship. There'll also be Motorsport UK scrutineers there as well, in case you have any particular checks that you want to do. So that is Sunday the 8th of March at Donington Park, the pre-season track day, before we get underway with the first meeting of the season, which will be in April, if memory serves me correctly. Just fact checking that now. Yes, it will be the 6th of April at Donington Park. So 24 minutes still to go in this 45-minute endurance race. This is round 4 of the 750 Motor Club Winter Sim Championship, powered by Gridfinder. Trafford King leads the way by nearly 8 seconds now to James Ellis, the championship leader, stretching his legs at the front of the field. Jake Hewlett a further 3 seconds back. This is the squabble between Jack Rowley, Arjun Salan, Luca Monroe, and then there might be some lappery involved in that one. Or no, excuse me, there's Jack Rowley going around Arjun Sala, the DH Racing mechanic. And it's game on again between James King, Stanley Rolfe, but now with Noah Osbaldeston in the fight as well. That blue and black machine at the back of this trio of cars. And Osbaldeston going for the move right away. Very tight to the inside on the far right hand of the circuit. But into Hislops, moves into 5th position. Very nicely done there by the youngster. So that demotes Ross Loram, the Devon-based driver. Stanley Rolfe, I should say. Into 6th position, who is not from Devon. From Buckinghamshire is Stanley Rolfe. So getting a good view again of the chasing cars from James King. From the UK, but based in Cyprus. Focusing on his sim racing for this year is James, with a potential return to the Armed Forces Race Challenge in 2027. Very much thinking ahead there is James. Oh, big sideways moment for Stanley Rolfe. Can he just about hold it? Well, doesn't fully spin the car. and shouldn't actually lose a place as well, because he was about 13 seconds or so ahead of Ross Loram, but that has left Noah Osbaldeston an awful lot of free space to attack as much as he wants. Standing Rolf with a big save over at Cascades. Seems like Cascades and the Shell Oil's hairpin, the two biggest bogey corners for the drivers tonight. Conditions very much improving now at this phase of the race. It stops raining, the sun has come out, and the track will be drying, I'm sure. So Osbaldeston following in the wheel tracks of James King in this battle for 4th position. Osbaldeston, the latest of the youngsters to come through Sports 1000s and try and rise up through the ranks of professional motorsport. Think of the likes of Chippy Westmeal, who came through in 2018 when it was still called RGB, that championship, and he went on to compete in British GT. And two very different lines being used around Cascades, and Osbaldeston running out much wider and actually taking a little bit of the grass there. So I don't think that was a deliberate attempt through that corner. You see how much that has forgiven Osbaldeston a little bit of his earlier mistake in this lap around Cascades, and has brought the gap down to just a couple of car lengths. So around Druid's Corner, cresting that little rise on the exit of the corner. Very satisfying when you do get it right. Osbaldeston looking towards the inside. He's been very punchy on the brakes in this race, and did manage to close up a little bit, but remains 0.4 of a second behind James King as they go over the timing line and back into Old Hall Corner. Much more direct line to the apex there for Osbaldeston, who gains a little bit more ground. So I think James King struggled around there on that particular occasion. You see Osbaldeston again keeping it much tighter this time, not running out as wide as he did a lap ago. Do have to be careful there because the track limits on iRacing, I think, still a little bit funky. And it is 18 incident points you get in these races before you start to attract the virtual attention. Oh, spin right in front of those two, and that is Jack Rowley in 16th position. Lost quite a bit of the front of his car as a result of that, but does manage to continue on his way as King and Osbaldeston make their way out of Britain's and into the Hislop chicane once again. And again, wide moment there for James King through the first apex, and that has brought the gap down even further. Maybe a car length between them now as they head out of Knickerbrook and up Clay Hill. It is almost a target design on the back of James King's car. In fact, that'll be the RAF logo. So King going defensive now into Lodge Corner, and Osbaldeston draws alongside, goes the long way round and leaves an awful lot of space, and just as well, because King was rather wide into the right-hander, but they don't come to blows, and side by side down the pit straight. Osbaldiston will have the wrong line into Old Hall. That doesn't stop him though, right round the outside of Old Hall. And that is a cracking move done there by Noah Osbaldiston to take 4th position in this race ahead of James King. There's a mighty move there from the youngster, who gives his car a little bit of a slide on the exit of Cascades just for good measure. But 15 minutes or so left in the race, and Osbaldiston now up into 4th position, recovering very nicely after his earlier trials and tribulations. This is Stanley Rolfe into pit lane now for his mandatory pit stop. It's a refuel and a tyre change that is necessary. And looks like he'll be the first to go onto the dry tyre as well. Oh, and proving immediately how difficult that is going to be. Does eventually manage to thread it between the cones, but I'm sure he'll have very quickly learnt to take it a bit easier on the right foot. And oh dear, Stanley Rolfe already going straight off the road, not getting the temperature he needs into those tyres. And this could prove to be very interesting because it looks like Traffic King and James Ellis have just come into pit lane as well. And potentially Jake Hewlett. So it looks like this is the time to do it. Oh, Stanley Rolfe's really struggling for grip, isn't he? Off the road again at Island Bend. And sideways around the Shell Oil hairpin as well. Just got to generate that tyre temperature. So Osbaldiston here, and that's Traffic King out of pit lane. Now he's going to be on cold, slick tyres here. I would have thought, no, he's kept the wets on by the looks of it, which is interesting. But nonetheless, those tyres will be cold. Now, of course, Osbaldiston and James King have still got to make their mandatory pit stop. But this is the top 2 in the championship here. Absolutely level pegging, and Osbaldiston going through and taking the lead into Island Bend. So now Osbaldiston temporarily into the lead with 13 minutes to go. Has got to make his mandatory stop. Traffic King has just made that stop. And it seems like somewhere in that pit stop cycle as well that not only did Jake Hewlett jump James Ellis, but Ellis lost 36 seconds to Jake Hewlett. Now, I'm not sure how on earth that could have happened, but seemingly, yeah, some problems there for James Ellis because he was ahead of Hewlett, unless he has dropped the car in his outlap and we just didn't see it. But yeah, that's a real shame for James after what was a very strong first 2/3 of this race, as Traffic King looks to retake the lead from Noah Osbaldiston right as we're coming up to lap traffic as well. This could be interesting. So King with a run on the inside, and Osbaldiston 3 wide going into Lodge Corner. As the back marker runs off the circuit, Traffic King retakes the lead. Will Osbaldiston bail right for pit lane? He does. And whoa, has to round out the back marker there as well. Goodness me. Good avoiding there from Osbaldiston. So he comes in for his mandatory stop. And James King following him in as well. I imagine anyone who hasn't yet done their stop will probably be doing so pretty soon. So interestingly, most of the guys have opted to stay on the wet tyre. It's Stanley Rolfe and Andrew Cooper who have gone for the dry tyre. Now, Stanley Rolfe currently 40 seconds behind the next car, but could be interesting. Oh, no, I think Andrew Cooper there. Oh, no! He's crashed into the race leader! Trafford King off the road on the exit of the Shell Oil hairpin after a collision there with Andrew Cooper, and he has done the quick escape into the pit lane, and that surely will put Jake Hewlett into the lead of the race. Extraordinary scenes. So Traffic King, who have been in command of this race as the championship leader as well, suddenly in massive strife after a collision with Andrew Cooper, who was trying to keep it on the road on the slick tyre, or the dry tyre I should say, lost it out of the shell oil hairpin, and contact made. So that should also put Noah Osbaldeston up into second place as well. That is just going to be what the doctor ordered to try and close down the championship gap. Of course, Traffic King, he should be able to use his quick repair on that, but still losing an awful lot of time to the pack. And has got quite a big gap to Stanley Rolfe as well. So it's not going to be a massive loss in the championship. Bearing in mind he has got more than 2 wins worth of points over Osbaldeston at the moment, but still a far from ideal situation. So let's take stock then. After a very dramatic pit stop sequence, 9 minutes to go in this race. Jake Hewlett leads by nearly 28 seconds now over Noah Osbaldeston and James King, with James Ellis in 4th, chasing down that last spot on the podium, 1.4 seconds back from the 2-time race winner so far this season. Jackson Carden in 5th position, as Ross Lorem is in 6th, and then this is Stanley Rolfe getting it sideways again on those dry tyres, still struggling and losing a place to Luca Monroe. Trafford King in 7th position still, despite that contact, and I'm sure he'll try to close down the 8.3 second gap to Ross Lorem in front of him. This is the battle for the podium though. So James King, who's had a fair bit of drama in this race, but a 2-time winner in the MX-5s at Brands and the Formula Vs at Silverstone, being chased down by James Ellis, the 17-year-old from Macclesfield, the former Ginetta racer. And the youngster putting the pressure here on King as they make their way up Clay Hill back into Druids. Oh, well, look on the inside. The first apex of Druids there. Now that is adventurous stuff from James Ellis, trying to fill the mirrors of the former AFRC racer. To the inside now goes the youngster into Lodge Corner, keeps it very tight to the inside, and now into 3rd position goes James Ellis with 7 minutes left on the clock. It's nearly 10 seconds to Osbaldeston in front and 15 seconds to Jackson Carden in 5th position, so these two have got a fair bit of space to fight. So they make their way round Island Bend, now back into the Shell Oil hairpin. It's been a real action spot in this race so far. You see, still, James Ellis is having to balance the car through there, give it a dab of Oppo. It is great to see James Ellis flexing his racing muscles a little bit. Hope he does find a home in Ginetta machinery once again this year, or in some sort of machinery. Turning into a very young podium with two 17-year-olds on there, but the one who is schooling them at the moment is the 32-year-old from Leicestershire, the Type R Trophy champion of 2022. Oh, now that is a close moment there for Nick Tuller on the exit of Old Hawes. He was being sandwiched between two cars that were busy having their own squabble. There's Arjun Salah, the number 9 car, the white machine that was putting a lap on Jack Rowley, I think. Arjun Salah, who joined us last round at Snetterton in the Clios, the 18-year-old from Luton, who's a mechanic for DH Racing in the Type R Trophy Championship. Real Type R presence here with 2 champions, a couple extra drivers, a mechanic as well. And they were the ones at the forefront of the Clios, obviously liking the front-wheel drive. I think the only front-wheel drive car that we used all season long, back into the classic rear drive machinery from here on in. So still some lappery to be done at the head of the field. See the recovering Trafford King, who was, I think, as 8 seconds or so behind Ross Lorem a few laps ago. He is now 4 seconds behind the 6th place car, with 4 minutes left to go. It's going to be very tight to see whether he can bag an extra few points there. James Ellis coming up to put a lap on Stanley Rolfe, which is mad to think about, considering that Ellis and King and co, they're all in a pretty close battle with Rolfe earlier on in the race, and now they're going to be a lap ahead of him as we approach the final few minutes. 3 minutes left on the clock now. So 45-minute races. Akin to the Road Sports series from the 750 Motor Club, our sort of mini endurance championship with very similar rules. 1 mandatory pit stop, and is very much the younger sibling to Club Enduro, which has 90-minute, 2-hour, up to 3-hour races, and is probably the best bang for your buck racing in the UK, potentially in the world, and offers a wonderful variety of racing machinery as well, and the kind of experience that you just don't get at the club level. So Rolfe making that move very easy, and there blue flags will have been shown on Stanley Rolfe's screen to let third place driver by. I think this will be James Ellis's first podium of the season. Yes, it will. Wow, that is extraordinary. Will become the 8th different podium sitter we've had so far this season, in addition to Trafford King, Noah Osbaldeston, Jake Hewlett, James King, Jackson Carden, Tor Tuller, and Rich Holloway. They've all been on the rostrum in the first 9 races of the season. It's going to be a bit of a sprint now, as we're 2 weeks away from the championship conclusion. Where is Jake Hewlett on the track? I wonder. We're less than a lap to go in terms of the time remaining. Where is Jake Hewlett on the racetrack? 24 seconds up the road from Noah Osbaldeston, of course. can see there, Trafford King still doing the fastest lap of the race, and now within a second of Ross Lorem on what will now be the final lap of the race, I would have thought. So catching up to the 6th place driver with not much time at all to try and get the move done. I might squeeze one more lap out of it. It does depend where the leader is, of course. Here he is. So this will be the last lap of the race with 12 seconds left on the clock and the race leader making his way up Clay Hill towards Druids. Jake Hewlett, who had not won his first 4 races of this season, is going to make it 3 in a row now after 2 victories in races 2 and 3 in the Clio Sports Championship at Snetterton, and now in the 5 Club Racing MX-5 Cup endurance race at Oulton Park. It is victory for Jake Hewlett for the 3rd consecutive race as he closes down the championship. And meanwhile, the championship leader trying to make up 1 place into the Hislop chicane and around the outside of Ross Lorem into 6th place does go Trafford King. Some small solace there for Trafford King after disaster struck at the banked hairpin while he was leading the race. It is a bit of a wait, 23-second wait for Noah Osbaldeston to take a 7th podium of the season and close down the championship lead by a smidge as now is that Osbaldeston who's been given a post-race penalty, because suddenly it's being shown as James Ellis in 2nd place, in 2nd place, sorry, 34 seconds from the race leader. So from what I can see, it's James Ellis with his best finish of the season in 2nd place, his first podium of the season, and James King. So once again, it's Jake, James, and James on the podium. So cracking stuff out once again out there. James King with his first podium of the season since his victory in the Formula V's at Silverstone on the national layout. That was before New Year's. That was the last race of the season in 2025. That one was. So a welcome return to the rostrum for James King. Not sure what happened to Osbaldeston, though. Clearly some sort of post-race penalty, which has denied him 2nd place. And, of course, crucial points in the championship. So really damage limitation for Trafford King. Despite all the dramas, Noah Osbaldeston, his closest rival in the championship, didn't actually have the best of days with Jake Hewlett nearly 90 points back. So that's 3 wins worth of points there. I'm sure he won't be too concerned about the fact that Jake has won there, and hopefully we'll hear from our top 3 shortly. And right on cue, as always, it's always right when I say it that Jake Hewlett pops into the commentary box.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, Jake. Yes, goodness me, your 3rd victory of the season. How was that one for you?
Interesting, I think. It's certainly a battle of attrition. Didn't really have an answer for some of the guys, obviously, like initially with the pace, and I think that's it's really interesting because the real world, I go really well in the wet, and the dry I go well, and there it was my first ever race in the wet on this simulator, and I think it showed. And long story short, just really interesting. Don't quite think I had an answer. A little bit of luck on my side. Obviously devastating to see what happened to Trafford. I think we done well on strategy. I think that's why we jumped James in P2 there. But yeah, just survival. I think survival, like really cool conditions though. Really fun race.
Yeah, tell us, what's it been like having this wet experience? New thing for the 750 Motor Club Winter Sim Championship.
Yeah, I think I would imagine the broadcast probably paints a bit of a picture, but even from like the driver's perspective, you can see people going off left, right, and center. So it's very challenging, but like nice and fresh. Like it's nice to see these sort of things implemented. There's not a lot of series and bits and pieces out there that do that, and yeah, I think there was a very clear muddle of the order, or maybe the people you would typically see towards the front weren't towards the front, and there was others in the mix, which is obviously great to see for like a competitive standpoint, and obviously for the people watching at home.
Oh, great stuff. And yeah, congratulations on a third win so far this season.
Thanks again. Yeah, I mean, obviously we missed the first 3 rounds due to real life conflicts, but we're just obviously here to participate and just have fun and have a good time in the winter break and look after the winter blues and have some good competitions throughout. So hopefully we can come back again next round and be a little bit more pacey.
Well, good stuff, Jake, as always. And we'll see you next week for the BMWs at Navarra.
Thanks, gents. Have a good evening.
Cheers, Jake. Third victory of the season there for Jake Hewlett, who was a winning machine in the previous season. Now, I look forward to speaking to our next visitor to the virtual commentary box, James Ellis. First podium of the season for you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very, very happy that I've done it at basically what is my home race in real life. It was a really good race. I had some good pace at the start, but Trafford had some good pace. But I don't know what happened. I think he had an incident, so that brought me up. So I was very, very happy with my race, and I also got a penalty in the pits, which I thought that was it for me, and then managed to pull it back.
Okay, so I think a few people might have got some pit lane penalties then, because we were wondering what happened to Noah, who was obviously second across the line, but demoted to fourth in the end. James, tell us, how have you found competing in this championship? Obviously, your background in Ginetta racing and working with the Cool Camel team in iRacing as well. So how have you found competing with the 750?
I think it's been really, really good. Everyone's been very, very kind and helpful, which I very much appreciate from everyone who is driving. Obviously, with the Cool Camel, I have some experience sim racing, coming off a first place winning class at Daytona last weekend. It's been a little bit of an interesting jump going the other way to what most people do, going from sim to cars. I went from cars to sim, but I'm really grateful that I'm able to do this, and I've had a great experience so far.
That is really wonderful to hear. We do love having the young drivers come through, even if it's just in the sim world. So tell us, you've got plans to be back in Ginetta machinery for this year, have you?
At the moment, there hasn't, and no plans have emerged, unfortunately, because that is the way with racing. Things don't go the way that you hope sometimes. But if I can get back at least for a test day this year, I'd be very grateful. Obviously, I'm awaiting A-levels. I've got 6 months until that's all sorted, so education's quite a high priority, but I definitely want to get back, and at least doing this for now is something I can do in the meantime.
Of course, I forget that you youngsters do actually still have to go to school a lot of the time. I'm so used to seeing you all on race weekends.
Yeah, I preferred the race weekends to school, if I'm honest, but who wouldn't? But I'm very, very, very grateful that I can at least do this. It gives me something to look forward to every other Tuesday.
All right, well, best of luck for the rest of the season, James. Congratulations on your first podium.
Great, thank you very much.
Great stuff there. And hopefully James will find his way back out onto the real racetrack in the not too distant future. Another James to come as we round out our podium interviews. It will be James King, who returns to the podium for the first time since his victory at Silverstone National, where he just pipped Noah Osbaldeston in that one. And it's back to the podium for James King. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's good to be back at the front again.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that race. It looked very difficult. You were right in the thick of the action from the word go.
Yeah, so I'll admit I've not done that much wet racing on iRacing. Especially, well, I don't think I've ever driven the MX-5 in the wet before. So it was a pretty steep learning curve. Like, yeah, it was wet. I think if it had stopped raining as we started the race, we might have seen some people have success on slicks, because a dry line appeared on basically the last lap. But yeah, it was there was a lot of sort of umming and ahhing of, will we take slicks in the pit stop? Absolutely not.
No, I mean, fair enough. We were wondering who was going to take it, but yeah, it seemed like people were struggling straight out of the box. The endurance aspect to it as well. It seems like this race has played out very differently to a lot of the sprint action as well. People were a little bit more well behaved.
I think so, yeah. I mean, that's sort of so in the championship I get involved in on iRacing for the armed forces. We do a similar sort of thing where we have a mixture of sprint and endurance rounds, and yeah, we normally find as well that the longer races tend to be a bit more calm until about the last 5 minutes, and then it becomes chaos anyway. But but yeah, it's normally people look a bit further ahead than the next corner.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It's back to the sprint action. The BMWs at Navarra. You looking forward to that one?
Yeah, I mean, I actually quite enjoy Navarra. I've driven it a couple of times in. I think I've driven in GT4s. I've not driven it in the M2 yet, so we'll see how that goes. But that's another nice little fun car that's obviously recently appeared on iRacing.
Excellent. Well, we're very much looking forward to it as well, and congratulations on your podium. We'll see you next week.
Thanks very much. See you guys later.
So, James King back on the podium there in the 45-minute endurance race. That rounds out all the action from round 4 of the championship. We are back not in 2 weeks' time, just in 7 days' time for the penultimate round of the championship. We'll see you then.